And thank you for joining us for this debate of the candidates for Hampden County District Attorney.
The role of DA has not been an open position for many years now, and many people don't really understand the role of an effective DA. In your opinion, what qualities should people look for in an effective DA? Councilor Goodhines.
Thank you, Walter. I'd like to thank the Ignite Council and the student group that was involved in organizing this event. I made a press release statement about 4 weeks ago indicating that it's very important for the people of Hampden County, specifically in Springfield and areas most affected by crime, to have the opportunity to see the candidates, what their strengths and weaknesses are. And I applaud you for stepping forward and making this happen. The question, I think, although we've heard a bunch of different answers that aren't all answering the same question, was what are the qualities of an effective district attorney? And I think I can name three that are the most important. First and foremost is experience. It's critically important that the community have a district attorney with the knowledge and understanding of not only the judicial system, be it from the juvenile court through the district court up to the Superior Court, the appeals courts, the SJC of Massachusetts, but also have an understanding of how cases are brought to court, have an understanding of the work that's done by local departments, how they work hand in hand with state police, how they work with our federal law enforcement agencies. That kind of experience is critical in being an effective DA and understanding how the components of the criminal justice system work together. Secondly, I think it's really important to have an understanding of how the office itself works. From the victim witness advocates, who are the direct communication for our office with people who are intimately involved in crime on a daily basis. It's important to make sure that information is shared in both directions so that we are effectively moving cases through the court system. And third and foremost, I think it is also important to emphasize that the district attorney has to be a person who can be trusted by the community, who has an established track record of speaking the truth and seeking justice. It's not a time to embellish or to change things to benefit politically, but to establish a level of trust so that people know what you say, that you say what you mean, and that your word is your bond. I think those are all important qualities in the district attorney and that I offer.
Thank you. Question number 2. In your opinion, what makes you qualified for this role, and what areas will you focus on to do this job effectively? Councilor Goodhines.
Walter, I think that we've heard a lot of interesting things about what make different candidates here uniquely qualified to be the district attorney. I can tell you why I think that my qualifications are the strongest. I have unwaveringly had a commitment to be a prosecutor my entire career. I have had opportunities over the years to leave and to try to make money in private practice and do different things. But my wife, Lori O'Dearn, and I are prosecutors from the day we started in the DA's office back in 1994 as interns, moving files, doing anything that could help the office succeed. And I worked my way up through juvenile court into district court. I was named the chief prosecutor of the Holyoke District Court from May of 1997 until February of 1999. And from that time period on, I have been a Superior Court prosecutor. I've worked with every different department in our office. I've also argued cases in front of the appeals court. I've also argued in front of the Supreme Judicial Court here in Massachusetts. I've also prosecuted in murder cases. I've prosecuted over 50 motor vehicle homicides as a prosecutor in the DA's office, and I've prosecuted over 3,000 cases. I have had the busiest caseload in the Hampden County DA's office over the last 11 years. In fact, I've prosecuted more cases as the Superior Court prosecutor during that time period than any other prosecutor in Massachusetts. Some can be said about different things, not having solely worked in the homicide unit. But what is important in having that experience is I've done all kinds of cases. I've prosecuted rape cases that other prosecutors seated at this table didn't think were worthy of prosecuting. Received convictions and sent people to state prison where they belong for committing heinous crimes. I think experience is invaluable. I offer it. I'm happy to talk about it further.
Thank you. Question 3. The city has recently deployed the 311 service, bringing more accountability to city departments for requests for service. What system will you use to measure the effectiveness of your department as DA, and how will you hold yourself accountable to taxpayers in the performance of your job?
Busy assistant district attorneys should keep as busy assistant DAs and not be running for political office on leaves of absence at the taxpayer's expense.
Councilor Goodhines.
To address a couple of quick points. First, I think Mr. Spellman pointed out a nice issue, that listening is a key component of being the district attorney. As I said, and to answer Mr. Patero, for the last 11 years as a Superior Court prosecutor, I have prosecuted more cases than any other prosecutor in the Commonwealth. And the statistics are available at the courthouse. I'd be happy to walk anybody that was interested down, and we'd go through the clerk's office and see that I've had almost 50% more cases than anybody in our office, and that we work at the same pace that they do in Middlesex and Suffolk County, where they have 2 or 3 times as many assistants. I don't need to embellish my record. I run on my record because it's important. To be accountable as the DA, it's important to point out first and foremost, to answer Mr. Kogan, I took a leave of absence as a prosecutor, and his theory is that the most qualified people for the job couldn't run for it under his administration, which would be a shame for places like Middlesex and Suffolk County, where Assistant DAs Dan Connolly and Jerry Leone are 2 of the finest DAs in the Commonwealth. So the principle that someone who's qualified and has spent their career dedicated to the job isn't qualified to run when the position is open, I think is misplacing what the emphasis should be. To be accountable to the public is to be a man of your word, not to embellish, to establish a reputation with police officers, with victims, with people who work in the courthouse. I encourage you, as citizens of Hampden County, to do that. You should go out and speak to the people who know what happens in the courthouse every day, who know who carries the water, who know who does all the hard work in the office, and then decide whether or not that person is the most qualified to be accountable as the next DA. I think that that is the experience that's important. I think that my record speaks in that area, and accountability is key in being a good and dutiful public servant and the next district attorney.
Thank you. Please comment on the intersection between your proposed prosecutorial strategy and the quality of life here in Springfield. Councilor Goodhines.
You know, I was telling one of my campaign aides, Michael Clark, the other day, I wish I had put a counter on my website to see how often people go there. And now I know at least 4 people do, because I'm hearing from my colleagues direct quotes from my website. It's amazing. It's truly makes me feel good. I think
we want you to feel
one
good,
of the
Jim.
thank you. One of the things I think that is important, getting back to what this question is the community prosecution model, quality of life. How do those things add up? Well, earlier Mr. Kogan was making reference to something that hit the paper today. You'll see in the morning about a gun court. And that idea came from Dan Connolly, and the idea came from Jerry Leone. And it's very interesting because those concepts that they use started back when some of us, I guess, just don't realize that we have a project that deals with firearms and violence in Hampden County, that deals with stakeholders working together within the community, that we started back in 2000, where we brought faith-based organizations, we brought community leaders, we shared information with the U.S. Attorney's Office, the federal law enforcement agencies, local departments, the state police, and even the Sheriff's Department, working to speak with one voice. And that if you strip ego out of the equation and focus on the goal, you're going to have a successful DA's office. I think that the important focus is to have a community prosecution model that is based upon trust, that is focused on cooperation, coordination, communication, and collaboration. A statement that I made in 2003 at a federal law enforcement conference about the success of Project Remove, about bringing those coalitions together and being successful. It's been modeled, and in fact, it's being used statewide by the Massachusetts District Attorneys Association. So I applaud that information's out there. That's the way that the community succeeds is by working together, speaking with one voice.
Thank you. Question 5. What is your perspective in dealing with guns and drug offenses in Springfield? To you, sir.
Yes, I find the question very important. I think the guns and drugs area is the foremost front in the DA's office in the fight against crime. I don't consider it a war to the extent that we need to be afraid of living in Springfield or afraid of being in parts in Springfield. I think the idea that is important to focus in on is that we have tools, we have resources, We have the ability to affect change in the area of firearms and drugs, and now's not the time to try some other county's idea because it sounds good. Having been the prosecutor handling the most cases in the DA's office in the gun, gang, and drug unit over the last 11 years, the most important in terms of volume, number of cases that clog the Superior Court come from our unit. I've successfully removed over 500 illegal firearms and had sentenced over 1,000 drug dealers in that time frame to either state prison or the House of Correction. That's not insignificant. We know where that problem lies. And some of the ideas that have been discussed here are the ideas that we use. In using Project Remove, we focus with law enforcement, state, local, and federal officials working together, using undercover informants, undercover agents who then provide information that leads to solving murder cases. This is critically important work that we do. It's done on a regular basis. It's nice to have pie-in-the-sky ideas. But as you can see, and you'll read in the article, the district attorney and the chiefs of police in Holyoke and Springfield all agree the effective measures we're taking to fight gun crime are being done now. I also want to just point out quickly, because it also addresses the drug issue, if I could just have 1 second, is that the focus needs to be on the drug dealer, not the drug user. We're not going after victims of addiction. We're removing the stores and supply sources, which are those folks who are carrying the guns.
Thank you. Now we're going to have closing statements, guys, so go ahead, close them. Why should they vote for you for DA? Councilor Goodhines.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to give us all a chance to speak about the things that are important to us, why we're involved in this race, and why it's important that we have a DA committed to keeping Hampden County safe. I don't think Hampden County is only one city, so the fact that some people live in different cities and towns I don't think takes away from the fact that we represent all 23 cities and towns in Hampden County. I think the main focus for you as voters to consider is who do you want to receive your vote? Who do you think is going to put Hampden County in the best position to be a better place than it is today? Obviously, the idea that we're ever going to eliminate crime is pie in the sky. Like some of the other ideas you've been hearing about tonight. They're great ideas. Boy, I wish we could have them. But they're not realistic. And the effort made by a consistent and hardworking district attorney is to bridge the gap, to bring that number down, to avoid losing generations of young people to crime and a life that's going to make it harder for them to succeed. In making that decision, I think experience matters. I think it's critically important that you have a person who knows how to handle every kind of case that's handled in the office, from start to finish, so that at 2 o'clock in the morning, when a police officer, a trooper, or an agent wants to call the district attorney and decide what should be done next, should we be getting a search warrant, can you come evaluate the scene? That's the person you want, not to pass off the decision to somebody else in their office. You want a prosecutor committed to doing that their entire careers. I've sometimes reluctantly, but always answered that call when it comes into my house at 2 o'clock in the morning for a motor vehicle accident, or for a question about a search warrant, or for a question about what's happening in a wiretap and taking people down. And the only one that's actually prosecuted cases in the state and federal court, I think that experience rules over politics. We don't want to turn the office over to a politician. We want an experienced prosecutor leading the office. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Bonacama.